What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video party. I'm so excited to upload this one for you guys because for this video we're going back to the digital world with Digimon's 2020 reboot. So last year I actually made a video where I talked about my thoughts on the recent 2020 reboot and the original 1999 Digimon, which I grew up watching. And at the time, the reboot was still airing every Saturday back in 2020. Well, the final episode just aired, which means we can now take a look at the full season, which clocks in at 66 episodes. Holy crap, looking back at it now, when I shot that video last year, the season was only at the halfway point. Now I could tell you to go check out my first video for a more in-depth look, but long story short, this reboot aired back in spring 2020 and followed Tai and Agumon's hero's journey in the digital world. Along the way, they encounter several kids who have also been sucked into this strange world and have also been paired with their own Digimon. And one of the things that I liked about this reboot is that the overall main characters of the story are Tai and Agumon. Throughout the season, we got to watch all these kids go on different adventures with their own Digimon, and even though those kids were the main focus in their specific episodes, Tai and Agumon would always act as supporting characters. And all this individual character development eventually leads up to an incredible ensemble fight where you see everyone regroup and team up in order to fight a big boss. And watching everyone's Digimon digivolve to the next stage of their evolution is pretty cool, as you get to see the bond between these kids and these Digimon get put to the ultimate test. One of the things that I also mentioned in my first video is that from episode 1 to about episode 30 or 33, there are no filler episodes. In every episode, the main story never takes a break and just constantly keeps building more on itself, raising the tension for a big battle that's about to happen. And that pretty much sums up the first half of the season, which is funny because after I uploaded my first Digimon video, that was when the overall story began to pump the brakes and start putting out some filler episodes. And at that point, that's when the story began to diverge off the beaten path, where each episode kept me wanting to get back to the overall main story, where we have an overwhelming bad guy whose presence can be felt throughout the entire second half of the season. And here we are just goofing around on several small mini adventures. Don't get me wrong, there are times where you do need some filler episodes because there is such a thing as battle fatigue, which is what I learned after watching JoJo, where if you're watching a show that has just constant fighting and battles that just keep going on and on and on and on, that drag out for too long, you are going to be drained by the time the show is over and can't even enjoy the final episodes. However, after watching several filler episodes, you feel like the season is just being wasted away, which is what I felt when I realized that there are about 10 filler episodes before you get back to the main story. But I will say my favorite filler episode is when we see a hamburger Digimon and a potato Digimon have an all-out food war. And I gotta tell you, those two are the most adorable Digimon I've ever seen in the franchise. But anyway, going back to this season, I think at around episode 45, that is when we start to go back to the main story, where we get to see these kids and their Digimon go up against an OP villain, which causes our kids to have their own individual episodes where they have to help their Digimon get stronger. And what I liked about the second half of the season is that the story still follows the same formula that has been established from the very beginning. Each kid and their Digimon get their own dedicated episode, while Tai and Agumon act as supporting characters. This really does build things up when you reach episode 60, which is where you get to watch both Tai and Agumon go up against the biggest Digimon villain in history, which I thought was a very interesting choice given that it was only them alone that went up against the big bad guy. Because even though everyone went on their own individual self-discovery journey, none of that mattered for when it came to facing the big boss, because at the end of the day, Tai and Agumon are still the main characters of the story, and you feel like you were robbed of a big ensemble fight that would have broken the internet had we had watched everyone and their Digimon go up against the biggest, baddest villain we ever saw in Digimon history. But despite that little nitpick, the overall fight was epic. But like I just said, the fight would have been even more epic had everyone joined in on the fight. Now I would have liked the show even more had the season ended on that incredible high note. But the story still has 6 more episodes where there's another bad guy who's supposedly even worse than the last guy we just fought. But anyway, the remaining 6 episodes focuses on each of these kids going off on their final individual episodes, with Tai and Agumon tagging along, which is good because with each individual arc that these kids went on, their Digimon have gotten even stronger to the point where everyone's power is maxed out. Because looking back at the original Digimon that came out in 1999, while I overall loved that series, one of the questions that I had were, Why were Agumon and Gabumon the only Digimon who could reach their max levels while everyone else was beneath them? Well, the reboot fixes that problem as it pays off in the final episodes, as we get to watch everyone's Digimon digivolve to their mega evolutions in order to fight the final villain. And after that, the season was finally over, and as you reach the end of the final episode, you feel sort of relieved that the story is now complete, but you also feel a little bit sad that the journey is already over. With that being said, looking back at how it all ends, is it more sad than the original Digimon finale? Because in that ending, everyone had to say goodbye to the Digimon before they had to go back to the real world, which was pretty much a bittersweet ending. But looking back at this new reboot, I was very satisfied with how the story finally came to an end. And looking at the whole season in general, I would say this is going to satisfy both old and new fans. Now, I say old fans because there are a lot of people like my brother who want to watch this new reboot but only want to see the dubbed version in order to recapture the same magic that we all felt when we first saw the original Digimon. So I cannot wait for the dub to come out because I really do want to see kids today get into an anime that I grew up watching as a kid, and I cannot wait for people like my brother to relive the magic that is Digimon. So if you're a longtime Digimon fan, or if you're interested in getting into the Digimon franchise, I highly recommend you watch this reboot. Well, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. That was my overall view for the Digimon 2020 reboot. If you like what you saw, click the subscribe button so you can get the latest updates from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye bye.